Most entrepreneurs run one business and feel overwhelmed. I'm currently running 4 businesses and somehow I've managed not to lose my mind yet. My mentors do something similar. Eddie Malouf runs tons of businesses. Cody Jefferson, I think he runs 8 different businesses. Luke Belmar runs multiple businesses. And my mentors have shown me these things as well as things that I've come up with on my own. So I want this just to be a conversation where I'm walking you through what I do, not to lose my mind, to leverage my time, and to continue to be productive. So just a quick snapshot of my reality so that you understand kind of what I'm dealing with. I have Dominus, which generates over $1 million a month in revenue for info products and agencies with VSL, book call funnel, webinars, and challenges. Profit Whales has managed over $1 billion in ad spend on Amazon. Cara Marketing generates over $140 million in revenue each year for our clients. And then Agency Domain is a community for agencies that has had over 4,000 agencies go through it. So these aren't just mom and pop businesses. These are full functioning businesses. In total, I have over 75 employees across all of these. So it's not a hobby. They are actually 4 functioning businesses, just so that you understand. But if you consistently feel like there aren't enough hours in the day with your business, whether you're running 1, 2, 3, 4, I promise you there is a better way to do it. And I'm going to break this down in a few points here. The first one is, one of the big reasons that most entrepreneurs lose control of their day and their sanity are because they commit some of these common mistakes. The first one is that they're reactive instead of proactive, right? They're always trying to put out fires instead of proactively trying to fix things before they come up. The second thing is there's a lack of clear priorities of what they should be doing. The third thing is that they're micromanaging and not relinquishing that control to their team, thinking that they have to control everything and that they have to do everything before being able to trust anyone, and then you're just doing all the work. And then the last thing is working for the sake of just being busy. I learned early on that being busy isn't the same as being productive. You need to give your mind time to reset and time for it to not think about anything, right? The second point that I have for you guys today is my non-negotiable daily framework. So it's kind of an exact breakdown of how I structure my typical workday. Disclaimer, I don't really have a structure. So it's not like I have like a strict wake up time or anything like that. I got into business so that I can do what I want. And if I wanted to live on a strict schedule, then I'd work a 9 to 5. So as far as like my morning routine is Bible's first before phone. That's my first rule. No matter what, Bible comes first. Then I spend the morning with my wife, walking, exercising, or grabbing some good food. I live in the UK now, but I work the US time, so I don't start working until around 1 or 2. But when I lived in the US, I'd make my first 90 minutes of my day involving 0 screens or meetings. I don't hold a strict schedule, like I said. I got into business to be able to do what I want. So every morning is different. I don't set an alarm, and I don't believe in strict routines. If I wanted to do the same thing every day and be a slave to a schedule, like I said, I'd work a 9 to 5. So I like my day to be as flexible as I want, to be able to do whatever I want to do when I want to, right? That is why we do what we do. The night before, my EA always sends me a schedule of everything that I have to do the next day, all my meetings and the tasks, so that I know exactly what I'm doing tomorrow before I even wake up. This is how I mentally prepare myself for what's coming, right? And so then one of the things that I do on like a weekly basis, I also do task batching. What I mean by this is I put similar tasks and meetings on certain days. So since I have different companies, each company requires different parts of my brain that I need to use in order to execute. I batch those things all at the same times so that I'm not constantly having to switch my brain over to doing different things. This completely destroys your productivity. We talked a little bit about delegation and trust. I firmly believe in this. I hire good people and then I let them do their jobs. Delegation is not laziness, it's leverage, and it's a serious hack. The higher price that you pay for talent and the more of the pie that you give them, the less you'll have to think about it, and the more they'll get done. I also firmly believe in only doing the things that you enjoy doing. If you're good at sales and marketing, position yourself in your company to only do that. If you're good at ops, position yourself in your company to only do that. For the things that I don't enjoy doing, I always bring on a partner. I'd rather have a smaller piece of a bigger pie than a larger piece of a smaller pie. I mean, even if you look, obviously completely out of my own personal example, but even if you look at like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, none of them own more than 10% of any of their companies, because they understand the importance of putting skin in the game to their partners and the people that they're working with, because then they can completely trust that they will push the needle forward. Another point, when I am off the clock, my phone gets all of its notifications turned off so that I can be present where I am, whether that means being with family, being with friends, at church, with my wife, at the spa, at the gym, playing some kind of sport, whatever. Notifications go off. This is actually, I have it set up so that it's timed on my phone, so that during a certain schedule, my phone automatically switches off all of my notifications. And then even like the functional button on the top, whenever I press that, it turns off all of my notifications completely. This even means like personal messages, phone calls, everything. Nothing's worth breaking apart that time that you're wanting to spend with those people or with that activity. Even if it's an emergency, it can wait until I come back. There's no fire too big enough that is worth taking that time away from family or from relationships. So I use that pretty much religiously, especially when I'm with my wife. That's a relationship hack, just so you guys have that. And then moving on to the third thing, some of the tools and systems that I use that I literally couldn't live without, as far as like my team's tools, they're very different than my tools. And I'll give you kind of an idea of why I do a differentiation of that. My team uses ClickUp for kind of all their task organization. And then we use Slack for client communication, just because it looks a little bit more professional and pretty much everyone's inside of Slack. But then for our internal communication, we use Discord. That's just because it's free and I don't want to have to pay for all of my employees to be users on Slack. And then it has different features that, Slack doesn't quite have, that makes it a little bit more casual, a little bit more familiar, and a little bit more fun. So that's just what we use inside of the team for all of my teams. And then for my own personal tool stack, I actually use the Notes app on the iPhone a lot, pretty much to take note of everything. And then I use the Reminders app for all of my personal tasks. I have it broken out by company and by priority, and it's just what's easiest for me. And then it helps me keep out of the noise of everything that's going on with all the clients and with all of my employees. So if I'm constantly opening up ClickUp or Notion or whatever to check on my own tasks, I'm also seeing all the notifications of all the other tasks that are being done with clients or whatever. And I don't want all that noise when I'm trying to do my own deep work. So I keep it all separate. My EA works with me separately inside those apps. And then that way I can just keep those two worlds disconnected. AI is obviously key. Everyone's talking about this, so I don't need to harp on this too much, and it's probably not a surprise to you, but custom AI is really where it's at right now. I'll make a video on this later, but just kind of keep that in mind, that custom AI is significantly more effective than using ChatGPT or any kind of those platforms. For the third thing, as far as like the tools and organization goes, for things that I don't enjoy doing, I'll always set up accountability so that it forces me to do these things. For example, I hate recording content. That's why I do it in this way, where it's more conversational, because it's just not my thing, which is why I don't do it very often. If you look at my channel, if you look at my Instagram, if you look at any of my social media networks, content is always sporadic. So what I'll do is I'll set up live streams or live webinars that forces me to get out there and actually record. That's why Agency Domain has like 80 hours of content, because I forced myself to record that content live with people, and then now it's out there. It exists. Or I'll hire a videographer that comes to my house and shoots with me, so that once again it forces me to sit down like this and actually record and put some of my stuff on the internet, because all my mentors tell me that it's what I need to do. Even though I don't want to, it's something that keeps me accountable and kind of forces me to do that. And there's different things like that I have set up with my team where I'll have scheduled calls or whatever it might be to kind of coerce me into making sure that those things get done in a timely manner. And then obviously doing the things that I enjoy, that comes without question. So on to our fourth thing. So on this point, I want to discuss how I balance strategy versus operations. And this is one of like the main secrets that I have to becoming sane, right? And a lot of people mix this up. So founders that stay stuck in operations, they never scale. Now, as far as like practical advice that I can give you based on my schedule is I try to limit calls as much as possible. I don't want to have a call for the sake of having a call, and I don't want to be on my team's calls. I want them to do their job. So I'm only hopping on occasionally just to give my 2 cents, to encourage them, to push them forward, and to make sure that everything's moving in the right directions. So when I do have calls, it's like clear weekly reviews where we're staying on topic. Obviously, I do want to have a personal relationship and connect with them, so there's some of that dialogue as well. But I want to be very disciplined with like how I block my calendar out. So if there's times that I'm planning on doing deep work or times that's personal, whatever that might be, I'm making sure that that's completely blocked out and not accessible, and it's like religiously blocked out. Not for anything in the world would I bring it back. Another thing is every single day I carve out a space just to think. It sounds simple, but really 95% of people that I've ever talked to don't ever really do it. It's a similar kind of, law for a relationship. You want to spend most of your time listening and not doing or talking, because that's where you really come to understand that person. And it's the same thing with yourself. The more time you spend listening to your own thoughts and sitting in silence, the more you'll learn about yourself, and the more ideas you'll actually come up with that will help you instead of just being busy to be busy. Now, coming to number 5. We're almost at the end here, but this is where we want to get into like the lifestyle factor, because why else are we doing this, right? Like if we don't want to accomplish, if we want to do all this stuff, we want to have the right lifestyle, right? So as for like my personal insights, like I didn't come and become an entrepreneur to hustle 24/7. I did it for freedom, family, and impact. There are some people out there that want to work 24/7. That's fine. You have to prioritize and do it how you want to do it. I'm just telling you how it is for myself. I like to prioritize time not working. I enjoy it. I especially did it more when I wasn't married or when I didn't prioritize relationships or hobbies, but it is not the person that I am today. But that's not why I got into business. Once again, I got into business to make money and live my life under my condition, not under the condition of a client or a boss, because a lot of people do that. They live according to what their clients want from them. So this means taking a 3-month vacation if I want to, right? Most people wouldn't dream of this. A lot of entrepreneurs wouldn't dream of this because they're like, oh, how could I leave my business for that long? You know what I mean? But it is something that I want to be able to do. This also means canceling all my meetings out of nowhere because I want to go on a hike with my wife instead, or I want to go play tennis, or I want to hang out with friends, or I decided I wanted to take a day trip somewhere. I work on Fridays and Saturdays occasionally, not always. I always work Monday to Thursday, but Fridays sometimes I take off, Saturdays I take off most of the time, and I never work Sundays at all. Note, I didn't start like this, right? I grinded my butt off at the beginning, but I got here after about 1.5 years, and some people want to work 90% of their time. I don't, because it's just my personal preference, and it still works. That's kind of my point. You have to decide for you, but both methods work. It's just what your personal preference is. Most people, they're fine doing it for 10 years. I wanted to get out of, the 90% work day, the work life, as quickly as I possibly could. So that's how long it took me, and that's how I kind of transitioned into that. So just as kind of like a final takeaway and encouragement, one of the things I just wanted to kind of recap some of the stuff that we talked about. We walked through some of the tools. We walked through some of the mistakes that I made. We walked through how to leverage your time. what to kind of give up, what not to give up. I just want to encourage you and tell you, like, it is possible to live a normal life and still have a business. If your goal is to work 90% of the time, that's fantastic. A lot of these things will still be valid for you. If you don't, then follow, my exact journey, follow the same thing that I did, and you'll be able to accomplish that. You don't need to work 36-hour days. You just don't. What you need is clarity, leverage, and discipline. And that's all I have for you today. If you have any other questions, feel free to shoot those over to me to any of the social media platforms that I have, or you can drop a comment below and I'll answer. Appreciate your time today, and I will see you on the next one.